Hi, it's Lyle from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Today is a slightly different video. Today we are doing a challenge. We are actually co-hosting the challenge with Lavon from La Vintage Decor. It's not easy for me to say. Lavon has the playlist, Martin, is that right?
Everything's in the description.
Everything is in this description box below, and that way you can check out and see everybody who's entered. We're giving away a prize to the winner of this, so this is a bit exciting. So I nearly forgot what I was doing. So today's challenge is maximalism, so maximalist. So it's all about everything, and as you know, I'm all about everything. So I have done this, so follow along and see how I made this. And can I just say, every single thing that is on this piece, this was all free. It is completely upcycled as well, this challenge. So not only has it got a maximalist print, but it was also every single item apart from the paint was free. Okay, so how did it start? It doesn't very often happen in Scotland. We're not really allowed to leave things just lying about, but outside a sort of warehouse, we were driving along one day and there was this set of legs off an old coffee table. I brought it back and I painted the legs because I'd always planned to do something more with it, but I didn't do anything else with it. I just painted them pink and then put it away. I'd meant to get a tabletop because I was going to turn it back into a coffee table. But today, what I've decided to do with this piece is turn it into a sort of bench seat. And the challenge is maximalist. So I am going to do more with these pink legs. I'm not cheating. It's just that they happen to be pink. I'm going to do a little bit of frottage on the legs. I have asked the lovely Martin to cut me out a piece of wood because this is going to form a base for our upholstery. It does all fit. That's going to go on there like this. I have some thick grey, I haven't even measured this to see if it is going to work. Yeah, it's going to work. I've got some thick grey upholstery fabric, which we're going to stamp with a sort of Indian inspired, really busy, really everything sort of pattern. Now, sorry, I said stamping. What I'm going to actually do is stencil this. You've seen one of my previous videos where I did a rocking chair and I stamped the fabric. I dyed the fabric first and I stamped it with this because this is heavier. I'm going to stencil straight onto this with chalk paint. So I'm going to move these elements to the side just now. I'm going to bring a big table in and we're going to take this off so it doesn't move, and we're going to discuss our stencils, discuss our colour choices, and we're going to get stenciling the fabric. Today's project is made out of completely upcycled items. This was given to me. This is an old piece of wood. The coffee table legs we found at the side of the road, and I have recently just got rid of my sofa, but I got rid of the carcass and I saved all the cushions off of it. So I'm going to take the foam out of the cushions to cover here. So far, apart from paint, it's a nil sum. I know it's not the spend no money challenge, it's the maximalist challenge, but it just shows you how you can suddenly do things, and I hope this will turn out really nice. So I'll just get set up. Okay, so what's the best way to tackle this sort of stenciling project? This fabric's kind of almost chenille. It's kind of, it'll absorb paint really well, but we don't want it too crusty either. So there's a kind of happy medium of how much paint we put on our brush. What I started with was I just put the sheet on the table, and what I've done is I'm masking taped it at the edges and underneath. It keeps coming off from underneath, but it's not going to move anyway. It's got this tape on the side so that this doesn't move around too much. Then what did I do? I got my masking tape. I put my bit of wood because I know this is the same size as the tabletop. I'm only going to stencil the top of our cushion, and I'll tell you why. If you start bringing designs down the side of things and you go to start upholstering and pulling fabric, there's a good chance that if there's a sort of all over pattern on the side, you might pull, not intentionally, maybe more at one side than the other, and before you know it, things start to look a little bit kind of squint. I think I've been asked before what the word squint means. Squint, I don't think it's a Scottish word. Is squint a Scottish word? Squint means not right, not straight, not even. slightly off.
Like you're hanging a picture or something.
Yeah, if a picture was wrong, it would be a bit squint. So that's what squint means.
Yeah.
So what I've done is to save wasting a whole load of masking tape, I didn't masking tape the whole box off. I just put my wood on and that gives me my general shape. I'm just going to put this to the side and just make sure this is all stuck down. You are going to need something to mix paint on. I've just got a mixing mat, but you can just use a bit of cardboard. You're going to need some paint brushes. They don't have to be stencil brushes. They can be any brushes as long as they're kind of flat and quite dumpy. They make the best sort of stenciling brushes. I just use artist brushes quite a lot, but I do have stenciling brushes, so I'm being professional today. Stencils. Let's talk about stencils. Not all stencils are created equal, and so there's a difference. These kind of stencils are ones that I use a lot on furniture. They're quite fine. It might not work. This could be too fine a detail for this fabric. This one here would be quite loose on furniture, but I think it will work quite well on fabric. It's got that, oh look, there's a bit out there that stencil's not even got the middle out of. Oh, maybe it's supposed to be like that, I don't know. Oh no, there you go. So this one here I think is a really good contender for stenciling. I think this one will be reasonably okay as well. I think this flower and the lotus flower will be okay. This will be okay. I'm thinking of putting some big flowers on it as well. It is a Maximalist challenge. These are the same as that one. I'm not going to use this one. I've cut this one here up at some point. I had two of them to give me, is it slightly bigger? It's the same size. No, it's the same size. Just to give me, when I'm doing furniture, I can bend them like this and make a single one round a corner or half it. Whereas when it's a big sheet like this, it's a little bit more difficult. We're doing it on a flat surface, but we are doing fabric, so you have to be mindful of that. I'm going to stick this one to the side because as much as I would really like to use it, I'm unsure. I think maybe if you're unsure about how this is all going to work out, try, if you've got enough fabric, take a little bit off of it, cut it off, stick it to a board and have a wee practice first. Have I done this before? Yeah, on pillowcases and cushion covers, but I've never really done something. I've stamped fabric, but I haven't really stenciled it. So I'm using Annie Sloan. First time for everything. Annie Sloan paint I'm using today. It's all Annie Sloan. I've done a couple of mixes, which I'll run through with the mixes in a minute. How am I going to seal this? People seemed quite surprised the last time that I said I just heat sealed it with an iron. Yes, Annie Sloan paint does heat seal with an iron. I don't know about other paint brands. You maybe have to check with your manufacturer. If you have a tumble dryer, you can also seal it in a tumble dryer. I don't own a tumble dryer. Bad for the environment. No tumble dryer here. But you can do iron it. So, right. What have we got here when it comes to colours? This is Barcelona Orange, Annie Sloan's Barcelona Orange, which I've added a little bit of Provence and a tiny little bit of black. I wanted a more of a rusty, darker, a rustier orange as opposed to a right bright orange. I've obviously got some Florence because can't live without it. I've got Coolabah green. That's what this is. It's a really light shade of green. And I've got some crepey pink. When I do to my frottage on my legs, I'm going to do a sort of mix of all of these as well. I also mixed up a very dark charcoal grey, and in this I just added Athenian black and a little bit of the Coolabah green. That's what gave me this dark grey. So I've got, in layman's terms, an orange, a dark grey, a pink, a green and a sort of turquoisey blue. There you go. What stencils am I going to use and how are you going to sort all this out and how are you going to make it work? Best to kind of plan first. I haven't planned, but I always think, you know, it's always best if you're going to be doing this for the first time to plan. So I think let's just, it always gets a little bit tricky when you get to the edges of things, but I can repeat it. Okay, we're starting with this one here. Fortune favours the bold. I'm just going to go for it. Mix mat. Bring it over, try and keep your paint contained on this. You don't want to be start smearing it everywhere. What colour I'm going to do on the external edge? I think I am going to do some pink, but I'm going to blend through some orange. I'm already making a mess, so that's always good. What brush am I going to use? This one here, I think. I'm just going to move these brushes out of the way because the next thing you know, these will roll in the paint. So, offloading. You don't want too much on your brush, but because I know this is thick and it's a kind of chenille sort of fabric, I am going to need paint on my brush. So I guess there's going to be a sort of happy medium. I am going to do something that I don't generally always do. In fact, I never do. I never tape stencils down. However, it's just because it is fabric I'm working on, and I think maybe a little bit of extra help to stop me kind of shimmying it around might work. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Just going to stick a bit on here. Now, so I've got my kind of loaded, but I've kind of offloaded, if you know what I mean. And I'm going to do the swirly twirly method. But I'm not going to do all of it because I want to do my orange as well and give it a sort of two-tone, because it is the Maximalist challenge. And we are going for... Now, when you've cut, because I've cut this stencil up, you can see there's not much to the edge. If you've cut a stencil up, remember and tape it off if you don't trust yourself to get, you know, not get it on the design. I'm dipping in the orange now. I'm not even cleaning my brush. I'm just going to go in with the orange and try and get all the parts that I didn't get. I just want to move this little bit of masking tape part here back of it. It was overzealous tape in there. A bit more orange. And I can already tell that my fabric is taking this really well and it's absorbing it. So a heavy duty cotton, whoops, don't want that. A heavy duty cotton is the way to go if you're doing something like this. Especially, you can use, somebody asked me before in a stamping video, could you use just an old sheet? You can, but it won't be as hard wearing, and it depends how long. If you're just doing it for yourself, I would, but if you're doing it to probably sell, you know, I had a bit of a struggle because I was trying to find fabric that I had that I could use, and I only had this grey. So this is why my colour choices are like this, because I wanted to kind of like... So there we go. There's a stencil onto our fabric, and let's just remove it. And this is how it looks with the two-tone. Yeah, I think you kind of get the concept there. It isn't very difficult. I'm just going to lay down my stencil where I kicked off from the last time, which I think is about here. You know, all know I have a problem keeping things straight. There's a bit of a pucker in my fabric there, so I'm going to have to be a wee bit mindful of that. There we go. And I'm just going to go along this edge and this edge with this pattern, mixing my two colours together to get this sort of two-tone effect. Okay, so I put my border on and I quickly just hit it up with the heat gun just to dry it off, so that we're not... It's always a good sort of tip to do, same with furniture even, you know, but the fabric stays wetter longer, so it's good to just dry it so that you're not leaning and making messes, because that's the kind of thing I've done in the past. Now I'm lining up my elephant. Instead of using it as a set, I'm going to have my elephants singly going along here like this, and then the opposite way going this way. Was that magically explained there, Martin?
That was magically
I
explained.
thought that was quite funny. Right, okay, I'm just going to bring over my mix and my paint and put the pink brush to the side. Now, this is why you should try and keep your kind of station quite clean, because you don't want to start marking everywhere else. This time round, I'm using the really dark grey, and I'm just making sure I've got plenty on my brush. Now, this is a smaller style stencil, so we're going to have to maybe take our time with this one and maybe do a more of a pushy motion than a twirly motion, because you want to kind of stab it into all of the details. I am going to come back and put some colour on these elephants, but right now this is the first lot of stamping that I'm going to be doing. I may put the colour back in with acrylic paint pens, or I will just paint it in. It's, you know, it's up for debate. Now I'm going to have to be careful here because I do not want... I'm actually going to stop and I'm just going to do this because I'm trying not to move my stencil at the same time. I should maybe have thought about that. I'm just going to tape that off there, and I'm just going to tape, where's these? I'm just going to tape this off here, just so that I'm not going over it into the rest of the stencil. Now then, I think that is pretty good. Because the fabric's nice and absorbent, you're not going to get a lot of bleed through. Well, you shouldn't do. So there's my little elephant there. I think this is already shaping up to be quite maximalist. Now, What I would be apt to do at this point in time is just cut this part of my stencil just so that I can butt it up against it. I've got some scissors here. I quite often adjust stencils. If I mean, it doesn't matter if you cut it too short in, because what you can actually do is you can just put a bit of masking tape on it when you go to use it again to make sure that it doesn't know. I want to try and keep it even with this border here, but I'm hoping to put this little lotus flower back in here somewhere. I'm not quite sure where it's going to go, but positioning is key, as I already have found out in this piece. We're not talking about it, Martin, are we? I did this border down here, and it moved, and so I had to kind of slightly adjust and make it go this way. Top tip, you know, try and.
What was the fix then now?
How I fixed it was I put my board back on, and I straightened it up on this edge here, and then moved this tape on this side so that it was straight again. And then this time when I did the stenciling, I was more aware of where my line was. I think I was just getting too giddy and thinking, this is really cute, and then I didn't go, ooh. So there's nearly always a fix for something. And if it hadn't been able to fix that way, I'd have just went rogue and did some borders or something. So you can see where this is going this time round. I'm just putting my little elephant on here, and I'm going to go along. Just trying to get it leveled up with here. All of them going this way, and those ones on this side going that way, and then we'll come back and we'll do something in the middle, and then we'll start filling all the bits of detail in. Okay, so all my wee elephants are dry now. I'm going to put this lotus flower along the middle, but I want one to go this way, and then I want to flip it round, so I'm going to have to miss one each time so that I can then go twirl it round the other way. So I'm going to be using the blue this time, the I'm having brain fade, florons. So I'm just going to go in and around my stencil here, but miss this one. Then do here. Then move it along. So that this one, just making sure that you're not obscuring too much of your elephant's trunks. Depending on what, you might not have elephants, but depending on what your pattern is. So I need to avoid this one and do this one this time. And move it along. Is that right, Martin?
I don't know.
I'm asking you because
I stopped second guessing you a long time ago.
no, I'm just making sure that, you know how sometimes I get confused and I don't move it along enough. Right, okay, so I want to do that like that. I'm just going to quickly get a cloth because, well, actually I could fill it in with just this little individual one, which is of the same design. So I'm wanting this one this time to go this way round. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yes, that is correct. And this time round, I'm going to be using the orange. I
think it's too low.
Too low?
You can. Yeah, about there.
About there? See, this is why I need you, Martin, for my being able to take spatial awareness, of which I haven't got much. There we go. So all I'm going to do in between them is this. Let's see if I think. Is that about right, Martin?
With this hand? Yeah, about that.
So that's all I'm going to do with this run. I'm going to go on and do this, then I'm going to dry it, and then we'll come back with the next part that we're going to do. Okay, so we're going to start building up the sort of maximalist in the sort of fabric design now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stencil over the top, just like I would do with furniture. I only wanted, this is this stencil and how it looks, but I only want this part here. So you can always use pieces in many parts of your stencils, just tape it off. And I'm positioning it right to the edge like that. And I'm just going over the top of this. It isn't too crunchy, it feels okay so far, so we're not overloading it. And I'm just going to go around this whole edge. I've done it over the other side, but I'm just building up all the different layers. So I'm going to get on now and do this. This is the thing about stenciling. Just come back every couple of minutes and I'll show you the next piece. But have a look at your stencils. Have a look at what can be done with your stencils. You might just think, I've only got a couple of stencils and they're both a little bit boring. Have a re-look at them. Get them all out. Look at them and think, I like that part. I could use that part. I could make that part into flowers. Stencils are a really ineffective way to make a really nice job, and stenciling on this fabric, I must admit, with it being sort of chenille fabric, it's a dream. It's going on really nice. It's not bleed through because it's a little bit kind of rougher. So I'm quite enjoying this process. Line this up here. And that's the thing about stenciling, it's just lining it up and carrying on. It can be quite laborious, but it gives you really good results. And I'm just going to fit this last one on into this section here. And that's that part done. So next I'm going to set up with the next, because I have quite a, the design in the center is quite tight. Because this is all quite tight, I'm very limited to what I can put in between. Now, I've already got my sort of pens out because I think I'm going to colour in the part of this design of the elephant on its back. But I have had a look at little stamps because I think I'm going to put some stamps on this as well, because you can't have too many things in this sort of challenge. This little dotty one I'm going to put around the edge and around this edge here. This one here, where did I think I could put it? I thought it would be quite nice, was it this way round, that if I put it in between each of the two elephants' feet like this, and this tiny one here, I thought I would put this little flower one, I thought I would put up on here. Now, I'm not going to stamp these with ink, I'm going to stamp these with paint, just so that they're nice and juicy, and that's what I'm going to do here. So, first things first, I think what I'll do is I'll pen in these areas here. Now, I haven't tested this, so this could be a complete epic fail. What colours am I wanting to use? I think this one is quite nice. So all I'm going to do is I am just going to paint around with my pen this shape here on his back. I thought I had a gold one of these. I'll have a look in a minute for the gold one, because I think I'll come back with the gold spots. But next time you see if there's gold spots on here, that's what I've done. I've found my gold pen. But I'm going to get on and do this now and colour in all these parts of his little design on his back. And then we'll get to a wee bit more stamping. And then we'll get to heat sealing. And then we'll get to trying to work how we put all this together, and a little bit of frottage on the legs. Okay, so what have you missed? All I've done is I've got the pens, I've put the yellow in here, the purple in here. I've put a bit of this colour of brownie or reddy colour in the feet of the elephant. I also used that just to accentuate the lotus flowers in the centre. And I was using this white one here. Now, how do you know where to put all these parts? I think the best thing to do is look at your design and go, right, what does it need? What could I give it a little bit more interest? What could I really, you know, we're talking maximalist, but also a sort of Indian inspired look has lots and lots of details. So how do I do this? So all I just did was just use the pens to kind of like zhuzh up what was already there. I quite like that word, zhuzh. Now, what next? I've got this sort of like marigold. Now, I was going to put it here, but I've decided if I'm clever, I can probably fit it in here, in between the elephants. So for this one, you're going to need a mini roller. And yeah, I'm just going to bring my mat over and bring these stamps out of the way. I'm just going to put a little bit of I mixed up a wee while ago a sort of mustardy yellow. I just want some of that on here. It's just at the bottom of this can. And And this is what I'm going to use for, now you've got to offload this as well. You don't want to have too much. You need it quite juicy because we're going on to fabric, but you don't want it so juicy that it makes a mess. So there is a sort of strategy involved, I think, in this. So I'm making sure I've got plenty of paint. And somebody asked me recently in a YouTube video, did I ever use paint? I'm going to start here on camera where I've got a bit more room with my stamps. And I said, yeah, I've got lots of videos where I've used paint, but quite often I use ink. Just, it depends what you're looking for when you're stamping. If you're looking for crisp, clear and concise, ink. If you're looking for that sort of painterly, I would use paint. It's entirely up to you what look you're going for. I mean, the stamp it, paint it, stamp it look is good with ink, but you could do it equally as well with paint. I think that marigold's a little bit neat in that one there, but it shows you my spacing is slightly off. So the marigold is going to go in between these, and this tiny little flower here I am going to use, do you know what, I'll put my paint away. I'll get my paint back out because I'm going to do hot pink for this. Martin, could you just comment on this while I just get the pink? This was me trying to be super tidy. Actually, where is the pink? I am still here. I know I shouldn't be. There I am on camera. Okay, cancel this just now because for some obscure reason. Oh, I can see it. Hang on, it's hidden. I don't know why I put it away over there, but I did. A little bit of pink here. And you're going to need another mini roller. And I'm going to try not to bump this onto here because I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera in a minute. I just wanted to kind of get you started. Got my little pink flower here. I do want it quite juicy because it is going on the fabric. And I'm going to put this little pink flower just above each elephant. Like that. Yeah. And the last one is these little dots. And I'm going to come back and do them at the end because I'm going to do them with grey. And I'm going to go along here, the dark grey that the elephant is, and along here. But I'll go and do my marigolds and my little pink flowers first. So I put the little marigolds on and I put the little pink flowers. I also put a little yellow flower in the centre. All I've got off camera here is my grey paint and another little roller. And I'm just putting the little dots along the edges just to finish this off. I'm just going to go along and I'm going to do that next. I am toying with putting these in here as well. I think it might finish it off. I will probably do that. Let's just see how that looks. It might look terrible and wish I hadn't done it. Yeah, I'm just going to put this along here like this and along this edge. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat gun the whole thing, take it over to the house, hot iron it, and we'll set up with the legs because the legs I'm going to kind of over the top, not so much flottage, just water down my paint and put this orange over the pink and then kind of pat it back so that it all sits in all of the sort of detail of the legs. Then we're going to start upholstering the top. Okay, so I'm going to go over and heat seal the fabric in a minute, but I'm going to do this first so it's drying. This did initially have 2 coats of Crepey Prink, which is an Annie Sloan colour, and now I'm putting this rusty orangey, sort of peachy orangey colour on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this and I'm going to absolutely saturate it with water. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a cloth and I'm going to wipe it back, leaving some of the pink details and some of the orange details. And pretty much this is the drill for what I'm going to do with the legs. I'm just going to kind of tie it all together, and it is about being maximalist, so let's even use maximal colour if we can. As you can see, I'm really saturating it. I don't want it all to be we're not covering up the pink, we're just adding to the pink. This is quite a messy process. I wouldn't add too much paint. It's a waste of paint to put it on and wash it off. It always kind of breaks my heart a little bit, but just a little bit. And I'm just going to do the inside of here while I can. So I'm just going to do this next, and then we're just going to let this dry off. And while it's drying off, I'm going to go over to the house and I'm going to iron my fabric to heat seal it. And then when this is dry, I'm going to seal it with my usual sealer, but I'll show you that when we get to that stage, just so you're clear where I'm at and what I'm using. And while it's drying, we'll upholster the cushion ready to attach to the table and make it into our seat. Yeah. Okay, so instead of using my normal top coat, French chic top coat, I am actually going to wax this. Why am I going to wax it? Because it's got some nice details of the two different colours and I really want to bring out the colour. So all I'm going to do is I'm using Annie Sloan's clear wax, and I'm just going to rub it round in circles and then kind of smooth it out, and then any excess I'm going to wipe off with a soft cloth. So I'm going to get on and do the whole base, and then we'll get to upholstering the top. Okay, so I've taken it off to the house and it's had an iron. Don't have your iron on steam. Get rid of any water that's in your iron, and if it's an iron that you use for your home and not a craft iron, then make sure you put a piece of greaseproof paper, parchment paper, or a dish towel or something on top of it. I don't find any residue on my iron, but just in case, you don't want to be having a dirty iron. So, but not on steam, and press down really hard and go over it and 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 over it. And actually what it does is it kind of softens it up as well, which is quite nice. So I'm just going to set that to the side. Now, I told you today was a complete, everything that we were doing was complete upcycling. I told you we got a new sofa, and so this was our old sofa cushion. It was a sort of L-shaped sofa, and this was the side one. We covered them in plastic and we put them in one of our sheds because
now can't leave.
Because
don't keep any.
Because Martin says
because a hoarder.
Because I'm a hoarder, and I thought I'm just going to keep those in there because you never know when you might want something like this. So here we go. So I'm just going to unwrap it. Now, I think out of all my cushions, this is the one that is going to be the best, because I think by the time I stick this part on here, I think it's just going to be perfect. So I'm going to get it out of its wrapper, its zippy part. I think I'll do that off camera because I think I might need help to get it out here. I'll take it out and then I'm just going to cut along it, and then we'll have a really nice, this sofa isn't that old. Not that I was being wasteful. It's just that it was way too big, and the cat had bored a hole in the side of it, and it was getting to the point where there was nothing wrong with the cushions, but I couldn't just sell the cushions by themselves. So I thought I'll just keep all of that and I'll just use it for pieces and parts right down to the feet. I kept everything apart from the carcass with the hole in it. So I'm going to get Martin just to take this out for me, because I don't think I can do this. It looks like I mean, to me it looks like there's only a tiny, oh actually no, look, there's a whole zip. I thought it was a tiny little hole. I was like, I'm never going to be able to get that out of there. I see. Right, so we'll get this out here and I'll get Martin to cut it. Okay, so sorry. Martin just made me laugh instead of saying it go. He raised his eyebrows above the camera. I made Martin do it. In fact, he cut through my tablecloth. I'll show you that in a minute. But this wasn't foam. This is the squidgy stuff. This kind of stuff, squidgy. So what we're left with is a really untidy edge. And so what I've got is I've got some linen from my stash. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cover this first to tidy it up and make it like everywhere else. And I'm going to have to really kind of work along this edge to get a nice clean, not like if I don't do it tight enough, I'm going to have big bubbles like that. So I'm going to have to work along here and I'll put one in just so you can see the staple gunning process. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work along here, and I'm going to do the normal way, and then when it comes to the upholstery, I'll come back and I'll show you what I'm doing. It's just that this is going to take a little bit of time to make sure that I've got this nice and it's all tucked in. It was just the kind of the shape of the cushion, and I don't want it to be all like pulled in too much in some areas and not in the other. So I'm going to get on. I'm going to cleanly, or as best as I can, do this part first, then we'll come back and I'll show you the upholstering, which will have just been the same process as this. It's just that I'm going to need to take a little bit of brain power to kind of work this out. Okay, so I've done that part. Probably upholstery foam may be better. The stuff that's in this is just actually wadding it. It's just, I'll show you. It's just literally held together with the outer casing. So this hasn't been the easiest project to I kind of think it slightly dips down a little bit there. Martin seems a little bit concerned about that. I'm going to tie it quite tight. I think the way, actually, if I'm really honest, I think I'd like to keep this, so I'm all right with it. But I think if it had maybe been, you've got to remember, everything that I have done today has been free. It's free legs, free wood. This fabric was given to me, part of an old sofa. There's been, apart from the paint, there's not been any outlay spent on it yet, so I'm all right with that. What I'm going to do is, because it's quite hard to manhandle, I'm going to try and do it on camera without making a complete and utter fool of myself. Because oh, there's the tablecloth, Martin, that you cut through. I had it sitting on the tablecloth because I didn't want it on the painty table that it was going to get matte. Right, so I've got my linen on, and now what I'm going to do is the usual sort of upholstery sort of way, which is I'm going to do all four first so that I know where I'm at. So one, oh, I think I need some little tacks. Try that again, and I'll put my glasses on as well, which is even better. So one in there, and one here, and in a minute I'm just going to kind of lift it up ever so slightly just to check that it's still central. Yeah, I think we're pretty good there. I'm going to have to pull a little bit tighter with this one because my fabric is quite neat on this edge. So at the end we'll go round with scissors and we'll neaten all this up. It is not a very neat job so far. And put this side on here. What you do, I just want to check it again. Better checking now than checking later. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that positioning. Always keep checking because you don't want to have it all squint at the end. Right, so what I would be tempted to do now is do one here, one here, one here, one here, one there, one there, and leave all your corners to the edge. But this is the part where it's worth taking your time. It is, because if you want to get it right, just take your time. I'm conscious of the fact that I'm not actually doing much talking here. It's just that I'm kind of concentrating. So I'm just going to get on, and you saw me do corners recently. I'm just going to cut this big string off. I'm going to get on and I'm going to upholster this cushion. Okay, so I've got some, this again this is recycled, came off an old pair of curtains, and I've had it in my stash for ages, but there's not a huge amount of call for a sort of russety orange tassel.
Until today.
Until today. So what I'm going to do is the little dotted line, I've decided I'm going to add this around here. Now probably I've already decided, Matt, I'm keeping this and putting it in the small haul.
Okay.
But probably maybe if I was selling this, I would probably maybe hand stitch this on. However, I'm just going to glue gun it on. It's quite decorative, so I'm not too worried about it. Plus, my children are not wee anymore, so they shouldn't be yanking trim off things. But
You have a granddaughter.
oh, actually, Poppy
And a new grandson.
Poppy may she may have a go at it, but you know, it'll be something that I'll jump on and off of. Anyway, so I'm just going to go on, and all I'm going to do is just where my little glasses, just where my little dotted line is, I'm just going to put a row of hot glue, and I'm going to kind of carefully work my way along till I get all the way to the very end. So I'm just going to get on, and I'm going to do that next. Okay, so that's our challenge piece finished. I hope you liked it. Matt's been already sitting on it. He says it's very comfy. It was all Annie Sloan paint I used, and everything else was free. Everything else was free. There's not really much to say about it. I think if I had to say one thing, I think maybe I pulled the thing I was telling you about halfway through. I think I maybe pulled slightly one way. It kind of runs this way. I could have probably made it work and run my tassels slightly down, but I didn't think of doing that until after it. But it's going in my house, so it's all good. Put your tassels on and cover it up. I'd like to thank Lavon. It was Lavon's idea to put this challenge on together. Lavon from La Vintage Decor. If you're interested in everybody else that's done a video for the Maximalist Challenge, it's all in the description box below. Next week we will be back to our normal day, so our normal video will be out next Sunday. It's a little bit of a decoupage one. Spoiler alert. If you've liked this video, give us a like, give us a share, leave us a lovely comment. And please do not forget to subscribe. I've been Lel, and lovely Martin is behind the camera.
Hello.
And we'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.